Everyone has joined. So we'll be starting now. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, respected dean, our esteemed guests, and the students of Indian Institute of Management, Amritsar. I, Gunjanpreet Kaur, would like to welcome all of you to Aarohan', the inaugural leadership summit of IIM Amritsar. Learning has always been a force that powers the paddle of success. And what could be a better platform for the brightest minds to come together and enrich the students with their epitome of experiences? Leadership is not about a title or a designation, it's about impact, influence, and inspiration. We are fortunate to have one such leader to guide us, our Honorable Dean, Mr. Amit Gupta. Now, I would like to request you, sir, to kindly address the August gathering.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind words. Um, Leadership is an important attribute of any organization, but I think one thing I've realized over my years of working in organizations is that if you have to build a world-class organization, it requires dedicated leadership, dedicated management over many years, guiding organizations through ups and downs while maintaining consistency of management processes over a period of over many years. Leadership has nothing to do with one-liners or elevator pitches or things like that. You have to be consistent, perseverant in your approach to managing, and that's one of the very crucial elements of leadership. Another interesting thing about leadership is while we can teach all of you a lot about leadership and management, you have to take that ultimate step to become a manager, and then as you mature in your management skills, to ultimately become a leader. So leadership is not something there is always this debate whether leaders are born or made. And yes, perhaps certain leadership skills might be developed through socialization, either earlier in life or later in life. But certainly, all of you can take that leap to becoming leaders and occupying positions of leadership. Leadership is a great responsibility. The difference, there's a popular story that a frontline worker asked his CEO, why is it that you get paid so much and I get paid so little? The CEO said that, well, if you screw up, you lose your job, and we get someone else to do it. If I screw up, thousands of people lose their jobs. So leadership is a great responsibility, where you have taken responsibility for not only providing a product or a service to a customer, but also providing livelihood and employment to a lot of people who depend upon you. So it's a great responsibility. We have a distinguished list of speakers today, and I look forward to hearing their insights into their leadership journey and some of the challenges that they have faced, their organizations have faced, and how they have navigated through these challenges. So over to you. I wish you all the best. Thank you. Look forward to attending this.
Stick with the bold course of action, an unconventional business strategy, a unique product development roadmap, a controversial marketing campaign. Even as the rest of the world wonders, why are you not matching in step with the status quo? In other words, real leaders are happy to zig while others zag. With these lines of Bill Taylor, allow me to introduce you all to the theme of today's event, Rise Like a Phoenix, focusing on how the industries took up the challenge posed by the pandemic and evolved themselves not only to survive their market, but to reinvent their services to serve the people better. In this era of digital marketing, creating strong and relevant brands for an omni-channel presence remains the key to marketing success. And with these lines, let me introduce our first guest speaker, Ms. Radhika Mehta, the Chief Marketing Officer for several iconic brands of today, Lenska.com, The Body Shop, Soul Tree. Ms. Radhika Mehta is a seasoned marketer with almost 2 decades of experience working with prominent lifestyle brands in the beauty and fashion space. Heritage brands Levi's and Nike to age new Lenska.com, and has played a major role in creating these path breaking brands with the focus on ethical and eco friendly consciousness. Having managed marketing deliverables across a diverse portfolio of brand strategy and management, advertising and communication, and consumer research and insights in fashion and lifestyle categories, Ms. Mehta believes that more than ever, brands today have to inspire with their purpose and priority. The times of fence sitting are over. Taking a stance is not an option but mandatory, as customers are watching action more than intent. Now, without further ado, I would request ma'am to initiate the discussion.
Hi, everyone. Absolute pleasure being here today. Good afternoon, and quite looking forward to this. Thank you, Gunjanpreet. That was a rousing introduction, though I'm not too sure if it all belongs to me, because it seemed a little strange at that point of time. However, yeah, I'm going to just take it from there. I think it's a very relevant theme at this point of time for you to get into a discussion on what really has worked or what hasn't worked during this pandemic, although the pandemic is not yet over. But I think when we look at things today, there's a very different perspective that we have. Of course, 2 years back it wasn't so. And let's dive in. I want to give you a sense of what things were like in March 2020 when the pandemic struck, and build a full context before we really address what the problems were, what solutions we found, and how did we grow it from there. So March 2020, I was the brand head for Lenska.com. We were close to clocking our first 1,000 crore revenue for financial year 2021. It was a huge achievement because considering FY 2020 was a 470 crores, we were going to be doing 1,020 crores in FY 21, and everything was upbeat. We were really looking forward to it. Another very big perspective here is that if you know, perfect vision is 2020, right? So going with that whole theme of, the vision-centric year, there were many plans afoot at Lenska.com, within the organization, and to scale it, to build it into a huge, successful year for us. There were plans for expansion. There were plans for Singapore business increasing, and also the US. The biggest thing was, and relevant to me was, there was a whole ambitious, very expansive marketing plan that had been laid out for 2020. Let me give you a little perspective as to where the brand was. I have shared a link with you, Gunjanpreet, for what kind of marketing we're doing and what was the brand we were building at that point of time. I think it'll set the context very clearly. Why don't we see that first?
Sure.
इस पे अटके उस पे अटके हल्के फुल्के नैन मटके लगा के पंख उड़ के देख मेरे यार रुक 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 ना मेरे भाई कर तू हाय आई टू आई हल्का दिल हल्का मन हल्का रख मेरे यार कभी इस पे अटके उस पे अटके हल्के फुल्के नैन मटके लगा के पंख के देख मेरे यार नजरों से कर तू मुलाकात एक पल में कह दे सारी बात हल्का दिल हल्का मन हल्का रख मेरे यार
Introducing Air हल्के फुल्के frames by Lenska.com. हल्का रख यार.
इस पे अटके उस पे अटके हल्के फुल्के नैन मटके लगा के पंख उड़ के देख मेरे यार
Lenska.com. Download the app today.
So that's where things were. We had launched a completely new line called Lenskart Air, and it was doing phenomenally well, contributing almost 25% to the business. We launched it in November, and we were here at March, really looking forward to a fantastic year. This is the whole context. And then the lockdown was announced. The Prime Minister announced a lockdown. What was it, 20th March or 18th March 2020? And I mean, the entire gravity of it didn't really strike us at that point of time. It was soon to build it all in. Lenskart had 700 stores, almost 700 stores, which were all open. 75% of business was all offline. Despite having been a digital native or digital first brand, how the way it was started, we had expanded to almost 600 something stores by then. And like I said, 70% of business was coming from offline. At that point of time, every single store shut, with that just one announcement. Just 1 second. And the online channel had its own set of challenges. Consumers always found it very difficult to shop for glasses online, because obviously it's a longish process. You got to select your frame. You need to find your power. You need to feed that in, choose your lenses. It's a very long process and fairly technical process as well, which a lot of consumers find very daunting. And in this entire, with all of this context, here we have no stores working. The China outsourcing had gotten stuck. There was just about nothing that would be moving. The entire gravity of the situation, the whole impact of what was to follow, hit us when the first DSR, the daily sales report, reported something like a zero, no turnover at all for a company which was clocking about 100 crores per month. It was a huge thing. It almost felt like if there was something if there was something called an apocalypse, it was here. And it took us some time, for about a week. We were also grappling with our own professional challenges, our personal challenges, because people had to be reaching somewhere and all of that. So having given you a full idea of what the context was, the brand was at a stage where it was always doing this fun, flirty, sort of a bit more humor side of things. And Lenskart was more of a fashion. A pair of Lenskart glasses was more of a fashion accessory than anything else, and a prescriptive pair of glasses. So if I were to break down what the opportunity was and the challenge, in the first week that we met the senior management, we clearly understood what the opportunity was. The opportunity was, in a country of this size, at least thousands of people would be facing a problem of getting a new pair of glasses, whether they were breaking, whether they were getting lost, whether they were being misplaced, or just routinely needing them, or they were outgrowing them. Maybe their power was changing. This was the opportunity. All these consumers wanting a pair of glasses, and the challenge: we don't have a channel. We don't have our online due to the problems of shopping. In that, the whole obviously the consumer buying behavior is not going to change overnight, and the stores are anyway shut. So, and the supply chain is also completely gone for a toss. We needed to clearly solve for the problem of these glasses reaching our consumers within the challenge of not having a channel at all. So here's the strategy that we applied. I call it the 3C strategy, because I'm not the most jargon heavy person. I don't personally prefer too much jargon. But yeah, to be a little innovative, and considering how important the letter C has been in the last 2 years for us, considering COVID, I call it the 3C strategy. The first piece is, I would say, connect. The second is creative, and the third was collaborate. Let me give you what the 3C strategy for us was. And quite honestly, it is not just the pandemic which we navigated with the 3C strategy. Any business at any point of time in their growth trajectory, whether in crisis, business as usual, or in a high growth state, can navigate and clearly fly, with this strategy. The first piece here is connect. Relentless, obsessive, connect with your consumer. Wherever the consumer is, whatever the consumer is doing, you got to be present there. So the problem, like I said, was of the channel. We decided, obviously, since the customer could not reach us online, we needed to devise a new channel. Now, what is that going to be? Counterintuitive to the very tech savvy approach that Lenskart has always had, we decided we will get into a phone for your glasses channel, which is we would have a toll-free line number, and customers could just call in and order a pair of glasses. Overnight, we had to set up a call center. We had to literally get people. Of course, there was a call center, but the call center was primarily for customer care or a customer services number. It wasn't really a selling channel. And we applied for a toll-free number, got it through. Now the fact was, how does that reach the consumer? Here again, connecting with the consumers, I was absolutely sure that, with the mythological series that we were doing, we just had to put a TVC on the Mahabharata or the Ramayana, and we would be through. There was much skepticism around it. We decided to change the entire media strategy. We had always and never done any of these DD, in fact, the Doordarshan is SD. It's a standard definition channel. It doesn't even have an HD. And we've never done anything lower than an HD. However, I was very clear, the consumer media behavior has changed completely, and let's do that. So we decided to put a TVC on Mahabharata. Okay, great. Well said, done. Now the execution challenge, which was solved with the piece, the second piece, which is C for creative. Finding a creative solution for addressing the problem that there are no agencies we have, because the marketing budget for all practical purposes had been reduced to zero, considering there was no revenue at all. There was no agency. And even if you had an agency, there were no shoots allowed. Where would you shoot a new TVC? We decided that we would shoot the TVC, let the customer shoot our TVC. It was something that was, met with a lot of, what should I say, inside there was a whole lot of skepticism again around it as to how will the customer shoot, what will be the production values, etc. However, we decided to do that. Here, the other opportunity or the other big challenge was, why will the customer shop for glasses considering that the lockdown was there? It was very difficult to convince the customer that your pair of glasses is going to reach you. That was in our Connect with the Consumer, where we did a survey, a consumer survey. We realized maximum people were very, very reluctant to shop because they were not sure. So we decided to do a TVC, which would assure the customer. So there would be customer testimonial saying that Lenskart was delivering glasses, and we would shoot this with the consumer. We found a very creative solution for it, and we shot this TVC. Gunjanpreet, if you can show the first two videos that I shared with you.
Sure, ma'am.
And you can look at the production quality, and this is television, and compare it with that first TV.
Lockdown, I broke my spec.
I just went to lenskart.com.
Glasses were here in 2 to 3 days.
Thank you, Lenskart.
Lenskart.com. Download the app or call 1-800-111-111.
So note that, we always asked for an app download or visit the store. So instead of a CTA, a call to action of visiting a store or going shopping online, we had completely changed the channel. We changed it over to a simple phone number, wherein even a person who had never shopped for Lenskart glasses would be able to shop for glasses. Just contrast this with the fact that the entire optometrist, every store shut. Even our biggest competitors, Titan or anybody else, they did not have an online channel. They did not decide to pursue something like this. So frankly, I think this C strategy of finding a creative solution really worked. The proof of the pudding was, we had reached a level of, with the online, we had reached a level of about 15 crores by then. But the journey from 15 crores to a 50 crores clearly happened because of this single TVC. There are two more I have shared with you, entirely shot by our own customers, with help wherein from us, my team and my videographers and my editors who would be constantly online and trying to help the customers. And the script, it was not scripted, even not scripted. It was a huge success. The very first day that this played on Uttar Ramayan, because we didn't even get a slot in Ramayan, how difficult it was at that point of time. Everybody was scrambling for whatever they could get. The first TV spot of 10 seconds happened of this, the one you saw, and we received about 500 calls within the first 10 seconds. That is the kind of demand that existed. And we had clearly, understood it and found some solution. There was jubilation in the organization, and we decided, okay, this is the route, we are on the right track. We built it up to about 5,000 calls per day and started to deliver, found various creative other solutions to various other problems. And then we were off to a roll. The third C, like I said, was collaborate, which I think is about excellence in execution. We collaborated with everybody. First of all, we collaborated with our own customers. We collaborated internally. Crazily, the way we worked 24 hours literally, to get all of this out, in a matter of a week. So by the 20th of April, we were on, with the we were there with the TVC. And collaboration to this extent that, the day the TVC went live, that night, one of the customers, I'm not going to point her out, she's there in this TVC, wrote to us that she's going to be filing a case against us because we have put her on TV without her knowledge. While she was very much informed, they had themselves recorded themselves. So I'm just trying to give you a flavor of the challenges that existed. Sometimes those challenges just came out of nowhere. We had to pull the TVC off, create another one overnight, which we did. You can show the other two now, and just went live the other day. It was just literally just firefighting all the time.
लॉकडाउन चालू हुआ उसके पहले मैंने मेरे चश्मे घुमा दिए।
लेंसकार्ट ऐप पे गई,
3 दिन में डिलीवर कर दिया।
Thank you, Lenskart.
Good service, keep it up.
Lenskart.com. Download the app or call 1-800-111-111.
This was our best TVC, actually. It had there had been no other TVC which gave the kind of CTRs this TVC gave.
My work requires to spend a lot of time online.
My eyes were getting tired. I ordered blue lenses.
Such a relief.
My headache is just gone.
Lenskart.com. Download the app or call 1-800-111-111.
So if you see, there is no rocket science here. We were doing very basic television commercials. However, the business was back. So I'm saying the 3C strategy clearly, which is A, about being relentlessly obsessive about your customer connect, understanding where they are, what they're eating, what they're doing, how are they sleeping, etc., etc., etc. I think it will always be a growth driver or a success lever. The second, like I said, creative solutions. Here another creative solution that you may have actually seen. On channels which were in Hindi, we had an ad which also had English, which was consistently being questioned, internally. And we said, no, this is what it is. Our customers speak this language, therefore we will use this language. And so we found a creative solution. And like I said, collaboration. Without collaboration, we couldn't really have, surmounted this. So this is the 3C. If there is more time, then I can always talk about, what I felt in hindsight, that even now, that what clearly has been a success driver for Lenskart or can be for any other brand.
Ma'am, actually, we are running short on time.
Sure. We can start with the questions then.
Yes, ma'am. So I would like to request Mr. Prithvi Raj to start with this question.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes. Good afternoon, ma'am. It's very great to get insights from you. My question is with the restlessness of the customer for next click in this digital world, how to catch the attention of the market if you're introducing a new brand or a product?
Will you repeat that and a little louder, please?
Okay. Am I audible now?
Yes, much better.
So I'm saying with the restlessness of the customer for the next click in this digital world, how should we approach the market if we are introducing a new brand or a product?
If you are
introducing a new brand or a product?
Well, I have a favorite line actually, and I'm going to say that here, which I say to my team as well and to almost everybody. The tools have changed, the rules are the same. Prithvi, the fact is there is a lot of buzz about OTT, digital marketing, performance marketing, and all of that. Well, let me say that these mediums are only different. The rules will remain the same. The customer you are going to be the choice of a customer if you will be solving a problem. If you are not solving a problem, if you do not have a remarkable product, you can be rest assured whatever media plan you're going to have, wherever you may be present, marketing, it is not going to be a long journey. So it is not really about the fickleness or the attention deficit of the customer today. It is really about you. Instead of focusing on your product, you just have to focus on your consumer. Don't fall in love with your product, fall in love with your consumer. I see most brands, and this is my own personal understanding, learning journey. As long as you are in love with your product, you are never able to see what is wrong with your product, and therefore you're not able to service the customer. The day you fall in love with your customer and just entirely go by whatever he or she or it wants, I think you've cracked the code. I think that's a slightly different way of answering this. So while media consumption and the amount of content consumption has changed a lot, and there is just so much need, the consumer will find a way to shop. Let me tell you, at this point of time, people who are shopping from Amazon today, tomorrow, if Amazon doesn't exist, if your product's great, they will find a way. The customer will find a way. I found my ways to all the brands that I am loyal to, despite the pandemic. And I'm sure each one of you will have a story, your preferred brand, how you manage to find it, procure it from wherever it is. So it really is not going to be a challenge. You need to make your customer fall in love with your product. That's it.
So the next question will be asked by Akshay Srivastav.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Thank you for choosing me, Gunjan and IIC. So my question to ma'am is, ma'am, all the strategies that you were telling us about that you chose, they landed perfectly on the bullseye. So did it come from intuition automatically and immediately, or there was a lot of brainstorming because it was the race against time? You have to launch your strategies in time, otherwise you might lose the gap. And so did it require a lot of brainstorming, or did it come out of intuition? And how did you weed out the alternatives that did not fit your agenda?
So Akshay, very good question. I think marketing is the best blend of art and science, I always believe, wherein the art is the application or the execution, but the science of deciding what is going to be a strategy has to be extremely scientific. It has to be data led. You have to have a very clear focus what the data is saying. So while we, I will say, some of the things that we did, they were pretty risky, like going on live. The entire marketing budget was put on television. There were people talking about a whole lot of other things. We stopped our SMS budget, which is a huge spend for Lenskart. We stopped our entire budget of SMS, instead decided to focus on television for the reach. It was a bit of a gamble, but clearly it was built on data that we had accumulated over the last 5 years. Television had always given us the maximum uplift. And here, the best part about marketing today is that you can experiment. There's an A/B testing you can do of a whole lot of things. The other thing that you must deploy is, and which at Lenskart is done very, very meticulously and stringently, is consistent consumer surveys. Literally on a daily basis, the online team is doing it's and they're trying to ask the consumer about every aspect, whether about the shopping, about the product, or about just about every random thing. So here I'm saying it was definitely a mix of some intuition and some clear derivative or a result. It worked. I think it was also about the team working very, very closely. We all knew there were 700 stores which were shut if we did not work, and this was the biggest driver for me and my entire team, that what revenue we put on board would sustain the lives of all those people who were working in those 700 stores. And quite frankly, it did not let some of us sleep at night, until we gave it our best shot.
Thank you.
So the next question will be asked by Mr. Ayush Karya.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi.
So, my question, with such a large experience you have in the marketing field, so I have a question to you, is that like people learn from their mistakes, and suppose if a company makes a wrong judgment of its customers and its target customers, and the actual outcome is not as per the expected outcome. So in such a scenario, what should be their ideal strategy? Should they be choosing finding the right customer for their product, or the right product for their consumers? What should be their ideal way?
See, the product market fit is one of the most fundamental things that you have to get right. So I would say whichever you are passionate about, whether you're passionate about that set of audience that you want to address or solve for, or if you're passionate about your product, but you will have to find the right product market fit. Until you have that, there is no point going ahead and scaling up. And the other thing I must say, well, every business makes a mistake. We make mistakes every day. One of the values at Lenskart.com, the organization's value, is fail harder. You are constantly encouraged to take bold steps. Of course they have to be backed by data or a certain understanding. These cannot be just random intuitive moves. But then when you bet big, and of course hedge against any kind of risk. But that is required. That's what business is about. And you have to take some steps. But the number one thing is, as soon as you're aware of the mistake you made, you have to cut your losses, no matter how difficult it may sound. And I must tell you, Ayush, the biggest problem is not that you made a mistake. Most businesses suffer the maximum because they make a mistake, but they're not ready to accept it. The bigger problem is to accept and do a rollback. The biggest losses come from there, not from the mistake. And you will and businesses spend time trying to make it work, support it with X, support it with Y, instead of cutting that loss, just stopping it right away, no matter what it takes. But you will have to be bold. If you have to be a marketer, you have to be bold.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
So the next question will be asked by Nilesh Kumar.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi.
Hi, ma'am. Like, ma'am, you know that Pusal and Lenskart is tech savvy, and Lenskart started with online platform. Then why does Lenskart decided to go offline? In offline, we had many other companies with their market share. They were like
totally very, very relevant question. And here I would say the first C of, and if you were hearing me intently, I would like to ask you the first C in my 3C strategy. What is it?
Connect.
Absolutely. Consumer connect. Despite a journey of 3, 4, 5 years, the writing was on the wall. The consumer buying behavior was not changing. The consumer was still going to a store because of the number one problem, which is, even if you liked a pair of glasses, you weren't sure of what your power was. And you can't take power online. Although Lenskart right now is working on a technology wherein you'll be able to literally take your power sitting at home with another device. You won't need to go to a store. But until that happens, the writing which was on the wall was taken into consideration. And again, don't fall in love with your strategy. So the strategy had been an online first strategy. However, when the consumer is not changing, Lenskart decided to go the offline route. And that was the turning point. Look at the way the whole inflection happened after Lenskart started its stores. The business grew almost doubled completely. Even the year that like I joined in 2019 and Lenskart, and the first year we grew 100% for about 420, which I said for about 470 crores, we became 1020 crores. So that was clearly, and these are indicators that we are on the right track.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
So the next question will be asked by Prajakta.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you for the opportunity. So my question is, in this competitive age, what do you think is the most important aspect of creating a brand identity that maintains or enables its consistency?
I'm sure you all probably are aware of better or more iconic brands, and day in and day out, probably you go through case studies of brands which are strong brands and how they've been created and all of that. I sometimes feel, if you have to market in India, you have to probably really know your consumer, and you have to understand both the metro consumer and the what we call the unmetro consumer today, because that is the audience that right now is at a certain level and will scale up to become your customer for the kind of products that one is doing. A brand, frankly, is like an onion. There are layers to it, and there are experiences. The most loyal customers probably reach the middle part of the onion because they have experienced every layer of it. Whereas the ones who are just new customers, maybe they are still on the surface. You have to strip down your brand and understand what the core values of your brand are or what the beliefs are. I'll give you an example. I was just reading about this. I don't know how many of you are from the West. You could probably raise a hand or something. Who all are aware of this brand called Swati? No, it's a restaurant called Swati Snacks. I'm not too sure. If everybody is from the north, then I'm not too sure how many. But Swati Snacks is a legend. It's a cult brand, there. Everybody who goes to Mumbai has either eaten or of course, a native, a Mumbai native would definitely know about Swati Snacks. How that brand was clearly built, they only serve chaat. Now there are millions of chaat stores, and outlets in the country or even in Mumbai. Why did Swati Snacks become so big? I was reading about it and how the founder started it, and just relentless focus on what they stood for. Fresh ingredients, because fresh ingredients and a small menu which was completely catering to the consumer. They've stayed true to their value despite the fact that it did not come from a business family. It was, they did not have any understanding of strategy or execution and all of those words. But I think that's what brands are. The biggest brands of the country or the smallest brands of the country, I think it is all about the NPS. You must be aware of NPS. Are you, Prajakta? Net Promoter Score, which is basically literally a communication of what is the love the brand, the consumer has for that brand, and you would promote it or refer it to your so what was did I answer your question? Because I think I went on a little bit of a monologue on my own brand story, but do read about some of these brands which really weren't created with that kind of a formal understanding of branding, and somewhere there you will find more marketing lessons and more management lessons than probably in the ones which have been developed into case studies and all of that, So yeah, did I answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So the next question will be asked by Ishita. Ishita, you're not audible. No, you're not audible.
Am I audible now?
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Yes. So good afternoon, ma'am. Ma'am, I really like the example which you gave for the previous question that a brand is like an onion. So ma'am, I wanted to ask that in today's world, how much important is it for a brand to inspire us with its purpose or its priority?
Well, I personally believe that the next decade clearly belongs to the brands which will take charge, which will clearly not just talk about what the beliefs are, what the principles and ethos of the brand are, but clearly show the way with their action. I have been the head of marketing for a brand called the Body Shop. It's a British brand. And the kind of activism that the Body Shop does, where it partners with environmentalists, with various organizations to be the force for the change, it is just phenomenal. It is inspiring because consumers today, even if they know, okay, this is a clean beauty brand, okay, this is a eco-conscious brand, etc., until they clearly see some action that is being done, and it is going to become a very important part of the challenge. If you just look at the kind of things that are happening to our climate, to our natural resources, etc., or even the inclusiveness or tolerance and all of that, these conversations which are pretty much on the fringe are going to all become mainstream. And I think inspiring doesn't really mean that you need to hold a morcha or you do something, but inspiring can also be in the way you relentlessly get the best product across to your customer, to not say maybe use preservatives in a certain food product. So I think that journey has to be there. Purpose for a brand is now, I think, important, or rather extremely important, because choices of customers are not just going to be about the prices and the product. They are going to be decided by the purpose of that company as well.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Due to paucity of time, we won't be able to take more questions, but I have a question myself. Ma'am, what do you think if a brand is looking for expansion or is just starting? Should they go for customization or should they have standardized products? What will be the better approach?
Saying customization or standardization, well, today is the age of personalization. Everybody just wants something that is completely catering to their personal need. So I think it is time for super specialization. You need to find a niche, a niche of customers who will be the right for your product. Make a remark. Now, the thing is, you got to make the most remarkable product. And it doesn't mean you've got to reinvent the wheel, so you're going to invent a product. You could be offering a much better version of an existing product as well, because you will be solving that problem the best. I don't think then it is about going to be customization, because if you're going to be catering to a small niche, your product is going to fit perfectly with that. Once you have that right, then you can scale it up to any amount. This country especially is very forgiving. I know of products which you look at and you would be saying, who buys this product? And there will be thousands who will be buying that product. I'm talking about especially about fashion and clothing, because I come from that. Even some beauty products, you would think that, oh my God, who buys this? But then there is an audience for it too. So as long as you have a remarkable product for your niche audience, I don't see the challenge in generalization or customization. You need to find the most remarkable product. That's it.
Thank you so
much.
much.
As the last piece, I just wanted to also share a little piece of from my own personal journey, which I think an industry interaction usually is a typical way wherein the interaction goes a certain stereotype. But I'm wanting to buck the trend. I think there are 3 C's that each one can personally apply to their professional journey, or even life for that matter, for the best success or the most fulfilling careers. And these are basically 3 aspects or 3 attributes. One, I would say conviction. You should be really committed rather to whatever your goal is, and should not quit. That should be one of your own personal decisions, to never quit. The second should be about clarity. Have the clarity of goal, absolute clarity of goal. And the third would be courage. I think the times that we are in, I mean, the pandemic is one. There are going to be many, many more challenging times that will come. And everybody should make a commitment that they will be very, very courageous to them, in their journey, to themselves, to their goals. And I think those are the three pillars of success for anybody.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Really, thank you so much for these amazing words at the end. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for this stirring session. Everyone present in the event is not only in awe of your knowledge, but also your presenting skills. I would like to thank you on behalf of our entire administration and students who were captivated by your talk, and I'm sure students must have learned from it. So thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm more than happy to connect at any point of time. Most of my coordinates are known due to social media as well, and anytime happy to be of any help or assistance for anybody. Thank you. Shall I leave?
Sure, ma'am. It's up to you if you want to attend the event. We are having more guests lined up.
Sure.
So next guest, Mr. Lalit Agrawal has joined us. I would like Ankit to take over.
Thank you, Gunjan. Leaders instill in the people a hope for success and a belief in themselves. Positive leaders empower people to accomplish their goals. With these lines, I would like to introduce to you the second speaker for today's event, Mr. Lalit Agrawal. Mr. Lalit Agrawal is an Indian retail entrepreneur, the founder and MD of V-Mart Retail, founded in 2002. With V-Mart, he pioneered the concept of value fashion retailing in tier 2, 3, and 4 towns in India. Under his stewardship, V-Mart's footprint has grown to 375 plus stores across 25 states, delivering affordable fashion to more than 35 million customers annually. As a leading industry voice, Mr. Agrawal holds the role of trustee of Plaksha University, the chairman of Retailers Association of India (RAI) and the chairman of Confederation of Indian Industry (CII). He was awarded Retail Leader of the Year in 2018 by the Indian Retail Franchise India to acknowledge his visionary zeal and entrepreneurial success. He was a speaker of the World Retail Congress 2019, the foremost annual gathering of the retail industry globally. In 2017, he was nominated to the Niti Aayog's Champions of Change, an initiative by the Government of India. Mr. Agrawal attended the renowned Owner-President Management Program at Harvard Business School. He earned his bachelor's degree in commerce from Bombay University and a diploma in financial management from Narsee Monjee of Management Studies, Mumbai. I would now request Mr. Lalit Agrawal, sir, to kindly address the students with his words of wisdom.
Thank you, Ankit. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see a strong and a big batch of IIM, and I'm definitely glad to be in front of you. Ankit has just introduced me. I just went back to understanding and thinking what all position do I hold while I'm speaking. But anyway, I'm a simple businessman, and this is more important. I'm a leader, leading a large and a good team of people. So which is much more important. But yeah, so this is what I am, and this is what he has told you about. So this is after a long journey. If I just want to take you through my journey, I started almost when I was a 19-year-old kid, and I wanted to take a admission in such institute like you all have done. I wanted to take an admission into the engineering college. I wanted my dad to get me admitted when I was 19, and then at that point of time, I did had that kind of my dad did had that kind of money, but there was a lot of donation which was required. But yeah, and I took that money, but not took an admission in the college. But I started a business in Mumbai. I started a printing press right there when I was a 19-year-old boy. Along with that, I did took admission in the college, and then started that job. So that's the journey which I started. My studies and my work all went together in the right at that teenage age. when you start getting into the knowledge of the customer, I was also fortunate enough to be a part of my father's shop, attend his store whenever it was required, and then I used to interact with customers a lot at that point of time. So that also gave me a lot of opportunity. So what the whole purpose here that I'm saying is, at very early age, lot of small things is a fun areas for you, and you treat them with a lot of humor, as well as a lot of what I call learning. But it really works for you. It really helps you to build this journey forward. It really helps you to understand the nature of the business, understand the consumer, understand the customer, understand also the kind of body language and the kind of communication which is required to when you're dealing with a customer and when you are in this business. So there are a lot of those good things that you start learning right from the early age, and at this early age where you all are, there's a large potentiality to absorb and accept, and also inherit all these really good important things which are required for building a career, building a good career. So whether you are a professional or a businessman or you are still a student, I think there are those fundamental things that you need to keep doing so that you are able to grow up in the times, and in these times when there are so many strong challenges, so many challenges, as the world is changing every day. World is moving every day from what it was to what it could be. There are a lot of mysteries that we don't know which is going to come in, and every businessman, every businesses are facing those kind of new challenges, and so that one has to really understand the changing customer, especially in India, the kind of changing customers we have, the large aspiring and the middle youth crowd, young crowd, who are really changing, who are adopting digitalization at a large speed. So that there, I think one needs to be much more careful, and one needs to be much more futuristic in terms of how do you plan your business, how do you plan your next steps, and how do you set up your unique selling propositions in your business, which makes it much more stronger to deal with the future. So at V-Mart, I mean, we do operate 375 stores right now. We deal with large population, which is the Bharat demographic. The Bharat demography is people who live in small town, people who are whose income is between 20,000 to 50,000 rupees per month, who are able to only shop or consume stuffs which are for a lot of metro people are something that they could use it every day, every month, but they buy only 2 or 3 times in a year. So that's the consumer that we deal with, and for them, shopping is not a everyday job. So for them, shopping is a planned decision. It is a research that they do, after which only they start shopping. So there's a good this customer is a real smart customer whom we deal with. So what do this customer wants is a real good fashion product with a very good quality and at the most affordable prices. So how do you provide all of that at a conveniently suitable location with a great experience that you have to give it at the stores. So it really brings in a large amount of efficiency building. It brings in a large amount of creativity. It also brings in a large amount of process centricity or customer centricity along with the process, so that we are able to justify and we are able to provide those kind of value to our customer. So while doing this is while doing this in a smaller organization, because when you're small, when you're an entrepreneur, you can do it easily, and you have done that. But when you start becoming bigger, to maintain the similar thought process, to create that institution who could do it with those fundamental value systems, to have those processes, this becomes very important, and that's the technique of management, and that's the way one has to manage the businesses, so that those fundamental key deliverables that a customer requires from you is being able to deliver. So at VMart, we have institutionalized all of this. We have tried to bring in both people, skill, technology, process, and the kind of value systems that we have to bring together all of these three, so that the customer really are getting benefited from all of that. So in this whole journey, because you work in so many locations, you work in so many different towns and different cities with different states, and as you all know, the diversity of India. I could see the diversity right here in the platform as well. So the diversity of India is so high, and we know the kind of language each state speaks, and the kind of food they eat, and the kind of festivals that they enjoy, and the kind of different kind of wearing patterns they have. I think there's a huge amount of diversity in India, and that's why to serve to the Indian consumer, you need to be very, very analytical. You need to be very, very sharp, so that you understand their requirement, you understand their aspirations, you understand their value system, you understand when do they shop. So that is very, very important. So at VMart, we try and do all of that, try and become a little local to the store where we open, and then try to cater to those customers who want those kind of products in those kind of territories. So these are very, very important in this. And today, with digitalization, this all becomes a little more easier to manage, easier to analyze, and easier to feed into. So that's how at VMart we are trying to solve these problems of diversity. We are trying to make this as a unique selling proposition, make this as a differentiating factor from other competitors, so that we are able to progress and keep growing forward. Ankit, I would open up the house, and it will be a good session if we could have a question and answers now.
Sure, sir. That was a very enlightening address, sir. I'm sure the students present here feel likewise and were able to gain much insights from you, sir. I would open the floor for Q&A. So I would request Mr. Parneel Patil to go ahead with his question.
Hello, good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead, Parneel.
Yeah, hello, sir. Thanks a lot for the insightful address. During the start of the session, Ankit briefed us about your profile, and there he mentioned that you laid the founding stone of the concept of value fashion retailing in tier 2, 3, and 4 cities across India. So I wanted to know how challenging was it for you, and how did you go about it?
See, when we started retail, and I know anyway, for any small organization to get into business, there are different kind of challenges. And then doing business in smaller town itself, there must be a lot of people, a lot of students here who are coming from smaller town. You all understand that. And still in today's age, in these times, the challenges have still become much smaller. But when we used to open 15 years back, at that point of time, there were large amount of challenges when you had to open a store in small town. Because one, at that point of time, the organized retail itself was at a very, very low numbers, and we were pioneering a lot of towns, and we were the first ones opening such bigger size stores. So normally people would open around 500 to 700 square feet of stores in bazaar, and that's where people used to shop. Now here, finding a right location, getting a right location with the convenience, getting the right location with the right rentals, because that's how you get a lease agreement signed. And then, operating a store in small town, there are fundamental lot of problems, as whether it is in subject to the law and order, or in subject to the kind of permissions that you require, or in subject to the skilled labor that you want, or even in the logistic or the material delivery or supply chain processes. So there are fundamental areas of challenges which came up. But yeah, I think normally if you have intended, and if you've wished, and that this is what you want to do, you could actually get through all of those challenges, find solutions for all of them, and get into those newer processes, set up newer resources to try and meet to those challenges. So that's how we all overcome with most of those challenges. But yeah, while setting up the businesses, there are different kind of challenges. When you are a small retailer, when you are a small business house, and then you want to grow, how do you grow? Whether it is money, what we call people, process, or even finances. So there are all these three things which are required, and you need to keep working along with the stakeholders, along with your team, with your organization, and along with the ecosystem, so that you are able to generate higher efficiency or higher growth in this matter. So primarily what we have seen is, whenever you start working with the ecosystem, and when you start making them feel proud, and creating value for them, then the whole world comes out to support you. And that's how you start building relationship, and you start building connection, and you start building businesses. So that's the very, very important important point that I would want to mention, that one has to really keep a very sharp or a very, very relatable line with your ecosystem. And your ecosystem could be your customers, could be your vendors, could be your community where you work with, the government that you have, or even your stakeholders, which are your shareholders or your investors or your value providers. So I think that's the most important thing which is required to come up to those situation where you are able to generate success from the businesses, even if you are starting in a new location or a new territory.
So the next question would be asked from Mr. Rajat Jain.
Very good evening, sir. My question is, do companies consider the government budget as one of the factors while establishing their short-term strategies? Like in upcoming month, we are going to have a budget presentation. So my question is, do corporate already have a prior idea, what will be the changes in the upcoming budget, or after that budget, the corporate take actions accordingly?
See, normally budgets are an impact creator for businesses, but it is not a decider for a business. There may be certain policy change which could benefit or could be of advantage or disadvantage to certain businesses. You may find certain opportunity out from the budget, but a government budget which is short term in nature, which is not a long term plan, 5-year plan, or a Panchvarshi Yojana, or a long-term project, could be of benefit to strategize, not smaller, these smaller budgets where you need to change your business processes or business idea or business line. So I don't think these are so important for you. Definitely need to tweak your policies, your processes, your opportunities. You need to find those opportunities from the budget, which could be used as a tactics, to achieve your strategy and achieve your goal. But these can't be the deciding factor. But still, yeah, we do track the government policies. We do track the government ecosystem. We have a regular dialogue with the government as a body, and we have those interactions ready, but not that we know what is going to come up in the budget. It is definitely a secret document which is prepared by the finance ministry. They have to keep it secret. Yeah, normally you tend to understand, because ultimately a government also comes out, the budget comes out from their analytical mindset, analytical thought process, where there are a lot of experts who already analyzes different states of business of the government, and understands what is the position today and what could come up in the coming time. So there are analysts, there are experts who comes out with those analytical ideas and analytical thought process, which then gives you a little more a little more clarity on what could come in, what is likelihood to come in. You can't really know what is coming up. So that's how it is. But yeah, I would definitely say that keeping an eye and keeping your ears open to about those fundamental policies, but these are not the deciding factors. These are some of the good things which could help bring in some additional advantage or take away some advantage for a short period of time. But ultimately, whatever comes in, you need to have your solution. If it is an advantage point, you should have a solution. If it is a point of opportunity, you should have a team or a process where you could utilize those opportunity to the business's favor.
Thank you, sir.
Next, I would request Mr. Mohsin Pathan to go ahead with this question.
Uh, Very good evening, sir. Thank you for this such a enlightening talk. My question is, like, with the advent of omni-channel experience provided by big players like V-Mart and everyone, how do you see the future of local retail business in India?
So, Mohsin, it's a good question. As India is an entrepreneurial country. Every third person here is an entrepreneur. Every second person I would call is an entrepreneur. It's a country where there's a lot of skilled, what we call self employed people who work for themselves, who are businessmen from their mind and from their heart. And there are a lot of states where businesses comes from home. The fundamental value systems that Indians have and the entrepreneurial capabilities that they have, this is definitely going to be there. There are whether it is an omni-channel or it's an offline business or it's a large store or a chain of store or a modern retail. There is a traditional retail and there is a need for traditional retail, and there is an expertise and there is a large amount of what I would call differentiating activities that the traditional retail does, so as to survive or so as to create a very, very different value proposition to the customer. So a traditional retail is a person who has his server on his shoulder, and he is always active. So he is always agile. He is always up to the mark. His decisions do not wait for an organization meetings to happen. So a entrepreneur, a small business, a small shopkeeper is always ready with his eyes and ears open. He is interacting with the customer very, very often. He is interacting with him at a very live way. So I think he is the smartest guy. If he is agile, if he is able to connect his resources well, he understands the customer's need very well. He knows the customer very well. His relationship with the customer is very good. For him to able to satisfy that customer and keep the loyalty of the customer is very, very easy. So that is why I feel there is a great opportunity. But as we all know, the power of a larger retailer, the power of a mega retailer whose buying capabilities are very high, whose sourcing capabilities are good, whose expertise in providing such kind of product is great. There, I think, sometimes the larger retailers also superpowers. He kind of creates a brand. He's able to provide multiple selling propositions, or whether digital or physical, to a customer. He is able to give the fast fashion. He is able to give the right fashion and the right value as well. So a lot of these things are being really specialized by the larger retailers. So there is a concern which comes up in the traditional retailer with a small mom and pop store guys who are inactive, is what I call, who gets onto the fear zone. So if you get onto a fear zone, if a small retailer get onto the fear zone and is not active enough with his fundamental value system, then he may start losing his business. But otherwise, I think with the rate of growth India has, the kind of GDP growth that we do every year, the kind of young population that we have, the per capita consumption that we have, and that is coming up because people are aspirational. The youth of India is trying to consume more, procure more, look better. So I think the consumption is bound to grow, and all that growth cannot be occupied by only the modern retailer, whether it is omni or a physical retail. There is a large amount and large chunk which is being taken up by the brick and mortar, by the small shopkeepers and the small mom and pop retailers as well. So what I would say that there is a unique specialization, there is an understanding of the customer, there is an understanding of the region, there is an understanding of the town, there is an understanding of the product lines, much more better than the larger retailer, which a smaller retailer has. So there is a large possibility, and it is going to survive and be there along with the modern retail or omni retail.
Thank you, sir.
So the next question would be asked by Mr. Karthik Mangwani.
Right. So a very good afternoon, sir. So my question is, how has budding startups and unicorns contributed to the revival of India's economy after the pandemic?
Yes, Karthik, we all know that. So that's where what we call phoenix are born. So the rise, that's where the rise of the phoenix comes in. So every time when you see a downfall, when you see businesses going down, there is someone who comes up, and largely we have seen the youngster of India, the youth of India always comes up first. So there is a large revolution which is happening around the startup world, and that is where we are able to see a great innovations and great creativity which is being driven through the digital channels by the young India, and around the world that's happening. But even in India, it's becoming larger and larger. So I think definitely there is an opportunity. There is a large amount of business in the air. One has to really catch it and make it to its own use. So there is an opportunity. There is a pain that the customer has, and the pain comes up and is more visible and is acute when in times of distress, in times of these pandemics, in times of what I would call unforecasted, unforecasted situations. So these are situations which were not great, which came up in the last 2 years, and a lot of such entrepreneurs have used this situation in creating a new solution to the customer, or giving a new solution to the customer through a different channel, through a different proposition. And that's how these unicorns have got built. That's how these unicorns have really created value for themselves and been able to bring in a line of business and create a line of business which is much more better than the traditional form of business. So I do believe there is a large opportunity in entrepreneurism. There is a large opportunity using the ideas and business ideas along with digitalization, thinking the same solution in a little differentiated way, which becomes a little more exciting for the customer, which becomes a little more cost saving for the customer, which becomes a little more value creation for the customer, is definitely something which has been adopted by Indian entrepreneurs, and that is how they have become unicorn. So this is a welcome news, and this is an opportunity for all young fellows like you all who could take this up and think on those directions, build a project which could really make stepping stone for you, so that you could build unicorns in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Next, I would request Mr. Kenneth Menezes to go ahead with his question.
Hello. Yes, sir. So now that V-Mart is already in the fashion, like the mid-tier fashion segment, would you be planning on moving to like the higher segment, or like is that in the cards now or in the future? Like, would it make sense to transition into a higher segment brand?
So Kenneth, definitely there is an opportunity again in all the segments. So what have we done is, we have always been a thoughtful retailer of trying to understand the market demographic and be in a space which is where there is a large amount of population, where there is a large consumption. So what we have understood for India, for Bharat, 80% of the population is the population which lives in the middle or the lower part of the economy, or the strata of economy. So that's how economic pyramid is. Our economic pyramid do say that the large portion of the middle and the lower portion is very strong and very wide. And you all can understand almost 80% of the population is in that particular space, which earns up to 30,000-40,000 rupees per year, so per month. So that kind of India, where the whole consumption, that the Bharat, where the whole consumption is done by that population, which is found in huge numbers, who's residing in multiple such cities and villages and towns. That's the business that we want to be. That's the opportunity that we are catering to, and we want to be really focused on that, because there's a huge scope and there's a huge potentiality of that particular customer segment, and having a business line developed in that. So there is definitely an opportunity even on the higher segment, where everyone has tried to go up to. But we try to provide good quality products and good fashion products in that, in the right value, where both a cycle wala or a car, sedan car wala, they all can come and purchase. So that's the opportunity that we are trying to provide. We don't intend the higher segment, but do higher segment also comes up and shop. But that's not our target customer. Our target customer is really the customer who is young, who is youth, who has young family, who is in the income bracket of 30,000 to 50,000 rupees per month. So that's the customer segment that we target, and we would keep targeting to deliver them the best fashion, deliver them the best experience, so that their needs can be fulfilled through us.
Due to paucity of time, we'll just take one last question. So I would request Mr. Aarohan'22 to go ahead with this question.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. So my question is, with the advent of disruptive technologies like AI and ML, and also global pandemic in place, so how is the retail landscape now going to change?
So Harsh, see, definitely, as I said, digitalization is bringing in a lot of change. Digitalization has impacted the retail business, especially for a change. And as India or even the world is so diverse, and the situations are so diverse, people's mood swings and people's requirement and people's happiness quotient is always very, very mobile or dynamic. So to understand all of that, understand the need, understand the need in the right way, you always require more analytics and more technology to deal with. So I think, people or the retailers who have adopted digitalization or who adopts digitalization more is likely to succeed more. So all those retailers, all those retail where the outcome is through the data analytics, through the understanding of the customer, using all these AI or MLs, and creating a solution for the customer, whether it is on the offline front or on the digital front, both of that is definitely going to lead into success. So one has to become a little more sharper retailer to get into the customer's eyeball, or get into that particular zone where the customer is able to target the retailer, or target the or is able to reach out to your shop, or to your website, or to your page. So I think you need to be really more sharper, both in your supply chain, in your product lines, the kind of product that you create, in the experience that you give to the customer, and also in discovering the customer or reaching out to the customer. So I think the retailer has to use digitalization, the analytical capabilities to the fullest, in analyzing what will the customer want to wear, what fashion is going to come in, what processes should I undertake using digitalization, so that I have the sharper mind to market, I have the faster product line, I have a faster speed of making that product reach out my store, reach out to the customer. I have the multiple channels for myself to provide to the customer to reach to his wardrobe. How do I understand when does he buy, what does he buy, how do I provide all of that at that point of time when it is required, how do I make it much more value for the customer, how do I create branding and create a sense of aspiration for my customer, so that I am able to make this product much more useful or much more shiny for my customer, which can give me a better value for money. So that's how I think every retailer has to try and do, and be a multi-channel retailer, be an omni retailer. So provide both on both the platforms, physical as well as digital, so that you are able to meet the customer's need whenever and wherever he is, whenever he wants to shop, and from wherever he wants to shop. So that's how one has to, all the retailers has to use the AI as well as the ML or the digital tech platforms and the technology which is coming in, and we are no longer talking only about that. We are now also started talking about metaverse. So be in that zone and zonality of metaverse to try and provide your customer all kind of experiences in that space.
Thanks a lot, sir, for this enriching session. With your permission, I would like to conclude with a small vote of thanks. So I would like to propose a hearty vote of thanks to our honorable speaker, Mr. Lalit Agrawal, for gracing this event with his presence and making the inaugural Leadership Summit a resounding success. We believe that this will act as a foundation stone for future collaborations. Thank you for enlightening us with your valuable knowledge and experience. I'm sure the students will benefit from this discussion and will reflect upon this. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you, Ankit. I would also want to then tell all the students, there are a few fundamental points that you should always keep in mind while creating your career. You should always know your values, have a very good, first zero in on your values and know what are your values and get your career aligned with your values. You should plan your strengths, where is, and you play to your strengths, and then where are your strengths, where do you want to work, how do you want to really bring about whatever you like and whatever is your key capabilities. How do you bring about that into your outcome as a career plan? And then definitely be passionate and live up to your passion. Be there, always be enthusiastic, have that smile in your face, have that very clear goal in your mind, so that you could actually use them, and definitely use your skill sets widely, use it to the fullest. Have that have that understanding, maybe read a little more, develop those skill set a little more, and figure out how much money you need to make it. So whether you become an entrepreneur or you want to chase a professional line, have a very good clear cut plan in place, so that you are able to generate a clear goal towards your focus, and definitely be flexible, because that's the most important thing. Don't get rigid to anything. You need to be always very dynamic, fluid, or liquid is what I would call. So that's how you could build your career well. Sorry, these are a few points that I wanted to say to all the students. I know these are not good times to provide these digitally, but whenever we meet physically, we will discuss this more and more and more and more. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful career. Grow in your life, be passionate enough, and build a new unicorn for India and multiple unicorns for India.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot. So Mr. Bipul Chandra has also joined. Welcome, sir. And I would request Mr. Vignesh to take the event forward.
Thank you, Ankit. And now let me introduce to the third speaker of today's event, Mr. Bipul Chandra. He's the MD of Ducati India. The achievement of company's sales volume has been made possible by his meticulous planning, execution, and immense teamwork. He joined the company in 2019 as Director of Sales Operation and was named as Managing Director from 1st Jan 2020. He started his post-MBA career with Burger Paints at Mumbai in sales department of production at the frontline level. Mr. Chandra then shifted gears literally and joined Bajaj Auto Limited as quintessential salesperson. He was in touch with dealerships daily, planning and executing the strategy needed in the local market to maximize volume. From 2003 onwards, he was a regional manager for corporate and government sales for UP and Uttarakhand. Later in 2005, Mr. Chandra joined Tata Motors in Lucknow. In the meantime, he worked in the entire North and West India and developed a great understanding of working with multicultural and multilingual teams. Finally, Mr. Chandra joined Ashok Leyland in 2013, where he remained till 2019. And there he had the opportunity to lead all the states of North and East India during various timelines. His work areas included sales, after sales, logistics, HR, and finance. I would now request Mr. Bipul Chandra to kindly address the students. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for this enriching profile of mine. I don't know whether I deserve all the good words or not, but okay. That goes with the part of it working. So once again, many thanks for having me over here. It's great to be with all you guys. Although a physical or offline meeting would have been much preferred, but okay, these are tough times and we need to live with the times. So that's it. This is how we proceed further. Coming straight to the point of the discussion today, I have been given or asked to discuss a very interesting topic, rising from the ashes. So this talks about the mythical bird phoenix, which rose from its ashes and flew higher and higher. I think today's time actually calls for actions like this. Actually, we are seeing the waves and waves of pandemic. Whenever we think that okay, the pandemic is behind us, we get some new wave or some new variant, which makes life difficult for all of us, whether it is for professionals like us or budding professionals like you, or anyone, whether it's family members or anyone, professional, personal, all the entire lives have been turned topsy-turvy. So it's tough. It's a very, very tough living life in these times. And I'm sure you all guys are trying to manage things somehow. I don't know whether your online or offline or physical colleges classes have started or not. So if not, then I'm sure some of the students would have never even visited the faculty or the college building itself. So that's tough. Anyway.
We had offline classes for some time, but we are back to online now.
Okay, great. I can understand the pain of this thing because I have student in my house and I have teachers in my house. so I can empathize with both the sides. My son is a student and my wife is an academician. She teaches students like you. So I know the pain from both the sides, how difficult life is for teaching online and for getting taught online. But okay, without taking much of the time on these small chit chats, I think if we come back to the topic of rising from the ashes, it definitely talks about the never say die or never say I quit kind of attitude. And in today's time, it becomes much more important, much more persistent, because the need is to grow all pervasively. The need is to remain positive, focused, be positive towards the future. There would be 10 things which will try to drag us down mentally, that this is tough, this is not happening, this is not going to happen, or whatever. But then we need to remain focused what we are supposed to do. We need to be very, very clear about the future, that okay, these are small things. I'm sure many of you would be very ardent followers of cricket. So in cricket, what we say that form is temporary and class is permanent. So something of the same nature. We need to be very focused that, well, a career or a lifetime is much, much longer than these couple of months or couple of years of this pandemic time or tough times, which will definitely pass through. So this time too, this shall also pass. I thought if I need to discuss about the rising from ashes kind of topic, then I thought what better than to take up the story of Ducati itself. So I have prepared a small presentation which will take you through the history of Ducati, and I'm sure you are going to like that. Because in today's time, Ducati is definitely on the top of everything. 2021 has been the best year of Ducati in the history. I'm talking of Ducati Global, the worldwide business. We sold almost 60,000 bikes last year. Never before in the history we have done that. Our revenues were probably the highest. The profits were highest. So never before kind of things have happened in 2020 or even 2021. 2021 was obviously the best one, but 2020, despite the pandemic, it was definitely one of the better ones. And more than for sales guys, it was better one for the financial guys. The company did wonders on the liquidity side and on the revenue side and everything. So the as we say, the bean counters, they were far better, far happier than the sales counters. But anyway, so the situation, was it always like that? Probably no. Ducati has seen its own share of success and failures. Ducati has seen its own success, own share of happiness and sadness, all these things. So I thought I'll take you through a couple of slides, what Ducati was and what Ducati is. And probably once we are through with those slides, I'm sure the essence of rising from the ashes would be pretty clear. And then we can discuss it further. So with your permission, I will share my screen and take you through the presentation. Now, okay, my system is acting slightly funny today, but anyway. Okay, so now can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Great. So I'll take you through the history of Ducati. Ducati is almost a 100-year-old company now. As you can see on the screen, Ducati started in 26. But before that, I'll take you through some of the historical aspect. So Bologna is a place in North Italy, which is the headquarters of Ducati. Borgo Panigale is the place where we have the factory, and Bologna is the name of the city. Now, at the turn of the century, which was 1899 to 1900s kind of thing, so which was the beginning of 19th century or 20th century, I would say, the beginning of 20th, end of 19th and beginning of 20th century. So Bologna was the center of activities connected with the radio waves and all those things. Now, many of you, either through being a science student or through being a follower of general knowledge, you would be aware that there was a gentleman called Marconi. He got an award also. Now you guys can understand what kind of award I'm talking about for the invention or for the working done on the radio waves. Many Indians like us, we have a very positive view about our own scientist, Dr. Bose. But anyway, that's something different topic. We'll discuss later. So Marconi is from or was from Bologna, and the international airport at Bologna is also named after him. So you can understand how closely he was associated with Bologna and how he would have impacted the life and business of the people in Bologna. And the best part is there is entire pasta sauce named after Bologna. So if you guys, any one of you foodie, then you would better understand the pasta bolognese. So Ducati actually, coming back to Ducati actually started as a manufacturer of electrical goods and something to do with radio items in 1926. Now, at this point of time, no one even knew that Ducati is going to manufacture motorbikes. No one had even thought of. And today, Ducati is the gold standard in motorcycling. It is at the top of the business. So you see how things have changed from making some electrical goods to making bikes. You can see these were the items or the product lines which Ducati was making. So today, neither any one of these items would be visible to you, nor you can even think of that whether Ducati was making these kind of things. Radios, sewing machines, and such kind of items. You can see the camera or something to do with the optical items. So Ducati was nowhere in the scene of making or selling motorcycles. This was a totally different part of the business. And then came World War II. So World War II, we all are aware. Whatever stream you would have studied about, in class 10th, you have definitely read about World War II. So we all know about what World War II did to the entire world. So it was destruction on a large scale, and then it was a rebuilding on even a further larger scale. You can see this photograph on the left corner of the screen. It is actually the Ducati factory, which was bombed by Allied forces. So there was nothing left, just rubble. And on the bottom of the screen, you can see the building which was rebuilt. So destruction and rebuilding. I think the entire topic of rising from the ashes gets concentrated over here only. What kind of thing was there and what was made again. But let's move further to study something more on this topic. Now, at that point of time, or in the middle of the century, during 1950s, Italy, you would be aware that Italy, Germany, Japan, they were part of the Axis powers, which were fighting, you can say, in one group, and US, France, UK, through UK, India, and so many other countries, they were the allied and fighting through the opposing parties. So obviously, Italy had to bear the brunt of the war, and so many things were destructed or they were destroyed in their country. And now Italy obviously was trying to stand back on the feet, and they wanted, there was a major requirement for the personal transportation. Needless to mention, at that point of time, any country would want to have, or the citizen of the country would want to have something which is effective and cost effective. Correct? Because you don't want to spend too much of the money. Still, you want something which is going to help you in your daily work. And then the future was born. I'm sure you are going to laugh, but this is the very first Ducati bike which was produced. This is a 48cc and it was named as Cucciolo. Why Cucciolo? Because Cucciolo in Italian means puppy, and the sound of this engine was like barking of a small dog or puppy. So this was named as Cucciolo. And hence the brand Ducati, the Ducati motorcycle business and everything grew up and up. What came afterwards in 1960s, it was again a dramatic era. So there were so many technological progresses. Humans went to space and finally to the moon and so many things. The computer started coming to our daily lives and so many things. So everything, whatever big step happens into the society or the world, it impacts the business in a very general way. Same thing happened with our business also. That is two-wheelers business. So earlier also, now probably it would be difficult to make you understand, but if you are aware, then probably you can go through the history of even Harley Davidson, how they started selling big bikes in America when people came back from World War II. So the veterans, they started riding on Harley Davidson. Now, when the cars came into life of normal people and all those things came, so motorcycle sales went in a very different direction. And every manufacturer, whether it was Ducati or any other manufacturer, they had to rethink of the business. This is what we did. So what we started pushing or putting our bikes through, that you can read in the last line, a traveling companion for life on the road. So it was no longer just a machine or an automobile to go from point A to point B. It was a lifestyle, a statement, making you enjoy your life, so many things. So entire thought process needed to be changed. Again, rising from the ashes kind of situation. So I'm going to take you through some photographs, which I'm sure you're going to like, what Ducati's history was and what Ducati's present lineup is like. So these were some of the bikes which we used to make in 60s and 70s. On the top left corner, you can see a Ducati Sports, Super Sports 750cc. Bottom is a Ducati Panta, which is a 500cc bike. Ducati Panta is incidentally one of the most famous bike, and many historians today say that Ducati Panta is what Ducati started making in the right way, and this is the bike which brought Ducati to the status or level where Ducati is today. Now you can see some further refined bikes. Obviously, when the company started getting more money and the technology further helped, so far better bikes are made. And you can see Ducati 851 was the, you can say, the first bike which actually started the racing era for Ducati, and 916 was the bike which is supposed to be one of the best racing bike which Ducati ever produced. And this is today. So if you think of what you saw in Ducati Panta and this, what you are seeing in Ducati, the fight formula. So Street Fighter, this is what we say, Street Fighter. This is a liter class 1000cc bike, 4-cylinder, 208 bhp. Just for reference, many of the super luxury cars today, they have 200 bhp kind of power. And this bike alone has a 208 bhp of power. So you can understand what kind of bikes we are making now. So from a very small 48cc bike to a 1000cc bike, from whatever 5, 10, 15 bhp kind of beginning to 208 bhp kind of beginning, right? So a whole generation has gone through. Almost 100 years have passed by from the beginning of the Ducati brand till today. In 2026, we will actually celebrate 100 years. So we are quite near to that. But there's a very big question, but. Were all these progresses without challenges? Probably no. You can see there is a long laundry list, which is the name of actually all the owners which had Ducati under their control. Now we think of a company which is headed by just one group or one family or whatever. So if I talk about my previous employers like Ashok Leyland. So in India, Ashok Leyland has seen just two management. One was when it was through Ashok Motors, when it is through Hinduja family. Tata Motors is only with Tata Group. Bajaj Auto is only with Bajaj Auto. So in India, we think of one company being handed or headed by just one group or people belonging to that business family kind of thing. But you can see there is a long, long laundry list. How Ducati family started this business, then how government took over, then it was sold out to some other organization. They sold it to some third person. It sold to another company. And finally in 2012, the VW group, the Volkswagen group bought it today through Audi. So now it is a very complex story. Ducati is owned by another Italian company called Lamborghini. I'm sure you would all have heard of Lamborghini. Then Lamborghini is owned by Audi, and Audi is owned by VW. So Ducati is part of VW group. But yes, you can see the kind of challenges. Many times, I'm sure in the past, many times company would have been very, very near to bankruptcy. Many times company would have been very near to getting closed down. Many times company would not be having any proper product lineup. Many times the market share would have been dismal. Many times the profits would not have been there, or there would have been severe losses. So what not would have happened in the past. But today, as I told you in the very beginning, 2021 was the best year for the company in the history of the company. So you see how we have come across. And that brings us to a very, very important point. Failure. As human beings, we are not hardwired to understand or undertake failure. We are always supposed to be successful in life. What do you talk about? How much marks did you get? Could you crack through that interview or not? Whatever. So we never talk about failure. We always talk about success. But I'm of a very firm view that anyone, whether it's me or people like you, the budding managers like you, everyone should be ready to understand failure in a big, big way. It needs to be taken as a companion for life, and it must be something which can guide us towards success. In fact, the photograph which I have used is also a very, very important photograph. I'm sure some of you would be following up, some may not be. There is a global competition in superbikes known as MotoGP. MotoGP is the gold class, you can say. It is for liter class bikes, and the professionals are at the top of the game. They ride at circuits, and the record for maximum speed is some 352 kilometers per hour. So that's a different level altogether, and they are highly, highly paid. Probably there is one of the champions, Marc Marquez. He earns some 20 million euros, 12 million euros every year. So that kind of salary is being paid. Now you can understand the level of competition wherein that kind of technological usage is there and that kind of salary is there. So you understand the level of competition. So the photograph I'm talking about, one race before this photograph, the rider, both the riders belong to Ducati. So the rider whose back is towards us, that is Francesco Bagnaia or Pecco, he won the race in a very, very dramatic fashion. That video is itself a treat to eyes to see, but we'll talk about that later sometimes. So previous week, this person won. This week, he was leading the entire race. Out of about 27 laps, he led for about 22 laps. And in one of those heat of moments, he crashed and he was out of the competition. Not only he was out of that race, he was out from the yearly championship running also, because the moment he crashed, there was a champion and he became the champion. Still, this person never lost hope. And in the very next race, he again won. So although he could not win the championship trophy for 2021, he was obviously placed number 2. But because of the good work done by both these riders, Jack Miller, whose face we can see, and Pecco, whose face we cannot see, because of these are two Ducati official riders. So because of these two official riders, Ducati still won the Constructors' Trophy. And this is what our success means, that it's a team effort. Although we saw many failures, we also saw many success. We never left hope. We were, despite our momentary or short-term failures, we remained hopeful. we remained motivated, we worked towards some goal, and at the end of the year, we won success. So Ducati was the constructors champion in 2020, and Ducati was again the constructors champion, or it won the constructors trophy in 2021. Ducati also won the trophy of the best team in 2021. So I think that's a testimony to what we are talking about, a testimony to never say die or never say I quit kind of thing. And that's what I believe we all are supposed to do. That's what I believe we all must be doing. And in my view, if we talk about the situations, then probably Ducati, as you would have seen in past couple of slides, Ducati is a very, very pertinent example of riding from ashes when the factory was decimated completely, when it was almost dusted off, it again rose. And it rose in a fashion what today we are seeing. So at this moment, this is the presentation from my side. And I believe I have made my point over here. And with this, I'm open for all the questions from the students, but I'm sure the message is very clear. Never lose hope in your abilities. Never lose hope in your dreams. Always dream big, and always work in a way, always work in a fashion that will facilitate the reality of your dreams. The times may be tough, but if my memory is right, there is a writer called Schuller. He has written a book which says something, good times never last, good people, something of that nature. I'm not remembering the exact name. So, but it is of the similar thing that good times never last, good people do. So this is the message for all of you, whether this is the pandemic time or whether you are facing a crisis in your professional life or any kind of situation, rest be assured that crisis would be for a limited time, and your abilities, your capabilities, your hope, your thought process, everything will finally see that you sail through the situation and you will again be on the top of your business. So with this, I wish to end my presentation and my thoughts. I'm open for any question if you have. And once again, thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. That was very insightful session. Now I'll request Mr. Priyanshu Shekhar to ask his question.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Thanks for the opportunity, sir. So my question is, like the Indian auto sector is emerging as the principal driving force for manufacturing that is expected to become the mainstay of our economy. So can India also become a global auto manufacturing hub?
India is already in the league of becoming or being a manufacturing hub. Whatever companies you think of, whether it is Tata Motors or Hyundai or Maruti or Renault, even Ford, they all were and will be exporting vehicles from India. Same is true for Hero MotoCorp, Bajaj Auto, TVS. So you think of any good automobile brand, they have either their own sales channel offshore or they are supplying to their other companies in global market. So India is already there. And if I'm not wrong, probably the entire factory of Maruti in Gujarat is, or it was made with an idea to take care of the export business. So you see Hyundai in Chennai, again Chennai from there or wherever they do business, but it's a big business for all these companies. So India is already there. In fact, if you talk about two-wheelers, then there is a model of BMW, which is in the 300cc segment. So TVS is the contract manufacturer for that. And globally, that 310 series is made only in India. So I'm sure there is no question about whether India will become. India is already there on the map. And just we need to ensure that the government policies do not change in a way that they do harm to this thought process, they do harm to this business. Rather, our business should be, our thought process should be to further help the cause of exporting as much as possible from India. And I believe whatever incentives or SOPs are being given, whether through the Make in India campaign or through various other government incentives. So this is going to increase, get further doubled up only. So I'm sure we are looking at very good times in automobile manufacturing in India as well.
Thank you, sir.
Next, I would request Mr. Aarohan' to ask this question.
Hello, sir. So with the increased enthusiasm and sales in the premium bike segment, I'm interested to know that how does the Ducati leadership has any vision for the near future to like bring few more models of the bikes or produce in India? Or in short, how the company looks into the Indian market right now?
Okay. See, Ducati is 100% focused onto the Indian market. And although the superbike business is quite limited in India right now, it is not into the mainstream, I would say. Probably there are a couple of reasons. One would be the less utility on the part of the customers, because Indian roads are per se that it becomes slightly difficult for any rider to take up these bikes to the office every day or for general day-to-day things. So for them, the commuter bikes get more suited, and the utility is far higher for commuter bikes. And these bikes get utilized for a Saturday, Sunday weekend kind of ride, or if you have a plan of going somewhere. So let's say I live in Gurgaon, for example, and one day I think of going to Darbar Sahib. So I'll ride. Okay, fine. I'll go to Amritsar and I'll go to Dehradun, I'll go to Manali, I'll go to Chandigarh, I'll go to Jaipur, or I'll go to any other such location which is still accessible within a couple of days. And if I'm way far more enthusiastic, or I have long list of holidays or leave days with me, then probably I can ride further. I can go to northeast of India, I can go to south of India from Gurgaon itself, or the Bangalore people, they are very a very keen rider to Goa or to Western Ghats kind of thing. So from Bangalore or from Kochi, you will find so many tours going to Nilgiri or to Rameshwaram kind of location. So there are so many well-known touring routes. So, or even people come to racetrack, like it's Buddha circuit in Delhi, or other circuits in Chennai, Coimbatore. There are a couple of more circuits coming up. So whatever said and done, the super biking or the big biking segment remains a luxury kind of segment. And then obviously there is a matter of price. So you will have a commuter 125cc bike coming for 60, 70, 80,000 rupees, and the big bike of the 800cc plus kind of bike which Ducati sells in India, or we have the products. So they start from 8-9 lakh rupee ex showroom. The costliest bike which Ducati has sold ever in India is of 1.25 crores. So now people don't have houses which cost 1.25 crore, and there is a bike which costs 1.25 crore. So it's a very different kind of ball game out altogether. And still, it is a limited market, but it is a market wherein we wish to be here, because we still see long-term potential. The way India is growing, the way the disposable income is growing in India, the way Indian people are getting exposed to the lifestyle. So that speaks a very good time, the advent of very good times for people like us, for brands like Ducati, or for our super bikes. Now people, managers like you, who are going to, at least I can hope that at least half of you would still remain in India. So you will earn some big bucks, and then probably in the heat of moment, you will decide to become my customer. So that would be a welcome thing. And if I talk about, now I don't exactly remember the number of IIMs we have, but I'm sure from the 4 ABCL, we would be having some 18, 20 IIMs today. That means you just multiply so many more high flying, high earning managers into the ambit of being able to buy a Ducati. So although it's on a lighter vein, but yes, there are people like you who are going to earn well and who are going to spend well. If there were, let us say, 4, 5, 6 IITs, there are some 23, 25 IITs. And all those students, all those young managers who will have less of responsibilities and more of disposable income, where the money is going to be spent at all. So yes, we remain hopeful. And coming back to the focus of Ducati in India, as I said, Ducati remains 100% focused for a market like India. And I'm very happy to share with you that whatever bikes we make or produce globally or sell globally, every single bike gets sold out in India also. If one bike was there last year, which no longer is there now with a global portfolio also, which still was BS4, and in India we had turned to BS6. And since that Superleggera is super premium bike, I was talking about this kind of bike, that crore plus kind of bikes. So there was no plan for the company to prepare one or two engines of Superleggera and BS6. So we couldn't get Superleggera, the current generation, into India. Barring that bike, every single bike which we used to sell last year in global market was getting sold out in India. Now, this year, I can very happily tell you that there is not even a single model which is not available in India, but available globally. That's not at all the case. So you can understand the focus of company like Ducati onto Indian market, that we are very happy to bring all the bikes, even though the sales are very less. Because if we do not bring the bikes in India, if we do not expose our Indian customers to all the bikes, then how come we expect the sales to happen? So this is the kind of investment we are willing to do, and we are doing that. It's all about making the product available to the general masses, and then letting the masses decide whether they wish to buy or not. But we are very happy the way market has turned up in last 6 months after the second wave of COVID. It has turned up pretty positive. We have seen good business turnover, and that's a very good sign for us. So we remain invested very happily over here in India.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Next, I would request Mr. Vaibhav Vyas to ask his question.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
So my question is, performance motorcycles in India have not gotten much following. There is a niche market for that, but there could be much more. And that is predominantly due to their inflated costs because of importing the motorcycles. So in India also, there are no manufacturers who are manufacturing motorcycles in the 500cc plus segment. And I believe that can be seen as an opportunity. So what will it take in this capital intensive industry? How can one start and how can one bring people together towards a vision of creating a world-class homegrown performance motorcycle brand?
Okay, so you have asked so many questions in one single question. So there are as A, B, C, D kind of part to your question. Let me try to reply point by point. When you talk about producing bikes in India, see, as a student of business, you would understand that unless you find economies of scale in any business or in any manufacturing, you will not start over here. In any place, to start any manufacturing, it's a very capital intensive item, as you understand. Lots of capex is required, and you need to understand over how many years your money is going to come back to you, whether it makes a business sense or not. So it is all about business case scenarios which you would be studying in your classrooms, but here we need to make an investment decision. And at this moment, unfortunately, as you pointed out, that India, the market still remains limited for performance bikes. And that's why the scope of having a factory or a manufacturing base in India is very limited. If you go to any country like US or UK, you'll find every city would be having, every big city, medium to big city would be having its own racetrack where people would be riding every weekend. Here in India, we have just a couple of racetracks, and that too, riding there is a big thing, costly item. Not everyone can afford to ride on those racetracks. So that means my Panigale kind of bikes, which are primarily tuned towards the racetrack, they have got a limited appeal. Then in India, we are a country of people who do not believe in taking holidays. You go to any country like US, UK, anywhere, entire Europe almost, there is a concept of very serious summer holiday, even for working professionals like you and me. Even my company gets closed down for almost 1 month in the month of August, because that's the summertime for Europe. Entire company gets closed down for about 15 days, 20 days during winters, because that is Christmas time for them. And here in our country, if you take 5 days leave out of the given 3 days during Diwali time, your boss will feel bad. So we are not at all a country of people who wish to enjoy our lives. Now, if you don't know how to enjoy, tell me, what will you do with the bike? You have a multistrada with you, let us say, which is our adventure tourer bike. Now, you cannot go to Connaught Place from Gurgaon every day, or from wherever your hostel is there in Amritsar. Can you ride every day to have the dal at Kesarda Dhaba? Probably no. That's too difficult. But then what you can do? You will say, okay, now this time let me try, and I'll ride from Amritsar to Jammu, or I will ride from Amritsar to Srinagar, something of that nature. But how many times? Probably once in a year. For us, enjoying such things of life becomes very, very difficult. And that's why the propensity of people to buy these bikes gets limited. And that is one of the problems for all the marketers like us. So coming back to your point, since the sales is a limited item, and since the manufacturing is a very, very costly decision to make, that's why most of the big biking companies are not making big bikes over here, despite some of them having their factories. Ducati does not have any factory in India, so we get the bikes from our other factories. There are some other competitors who have their bikes in the smaller segment. They manufacture their bike in the smaller segment, but they don't manufacture their bikes in India in bigger segment, because the entire exercise of putting up the jigs and fixtures for preparing or producing a bike in India would be far costlier than the returns which would come by selling those bikes in India. So that's a very serious concern. Till now, most of the companies are not up to that level. So we are not making factories out here in India. Second point, coming to the, which I understood from your question, that you are talking or hinting about the current manufacturers from India, the homegrown two-wheeler manufacturers. Why are they not making big bikes? If the intent was right, I thought, or I understood this question. Now, this is all about business decisions. Either you can reinvent the wheel, or you can make the wheel better. So Indian companies are better at making the wheel further better rather than reinventing the wheel. So Bajaj Auto has a partnership in KTM, Husqvarna. Now they have a technical tie-up with Triumph. TVS has bought Norton. TVS is making bikes for BMW. Royal Enfield does not have any such tie-up, but okay. Hero, now they have taken up the distributionship of or importership of Harley. So you see all these three big brands, the homegrown big brands, Hero, Bajaj and TVS, somewhere or the other, they are already associated with the big bike business. So they are trying to make the wheel better rather than reinventing the wheel. Because reinventing the wheel means further higher level of investment, which they think it's not necessary, or they have far better avenues to invest that kind of money in some other business. So this is what I think, and probably this may be one of the correct reasons for them not investing much into the big bike business all by themselves, because it's a costly affair. I understand the kind of money Ducati spends in making new bikes every year. So this is very costly. So I think it all boils down to money, and that is the answer to your question in whatever respect it was. Whether Ducati having a factory in India, or whether Indian manufacturers having big bike business in India.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Due to paucity of time, we will not be able to ask further questions. Thank you for patiently answering all the questions, sir. And now I'd like to propose a hearty vote of thanks to the Honorable Speaker, Mr. Bipul Chandra, for his words of knowledge and guidance. We believe that this will act as a foundation stone for future collaborations. Thank you again, sir, for the presence and sharing us with your valuable knowledge and experience. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks a lot for having me here. It was definitely a very interesting discussion we had, and I'm sure all of you would have enjoyed the presentation and the history of Ducati. So let's move forward from here. Wishing all of you all the best for your respective careers. Do well in your life. Remain happy and blessed. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I would request Mr. Rajat to take the event forward.
Yeah, thank you, Vignesh. The pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change. The leader adjusts the sails. That being said, allow me to introduce you to the fourth speaker of today's event, Ms. Seema Nayak. Ms. Seema Nayak is currently associated with NCDEX in the Chief Compliance Officer capacity. With over 2 decades of experience in the securities markets, spanning varied roles, she has a well-rounded perspective of the regulatory framework and environment. It follows her most vital skill in designing and running enterprise-level compliance programs. Ms. Nayak is an MBA who started her career with the OTC Exchange of India and then served the NSE for around 16 years. At NCDEX, she currently leads the teams for exchange compliance, membership, member inspection, investor protection, PML, and enforcement. She has been associated with NCDEX for 5 years. I would now request Ms. Seema Nayak to kindly address the students with the words of wisdom. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rajat. Thank you so much. I have been logged in right from the beginning and I've been enjoying these sessions as much as you guys have. So thanks again for the introduction and thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts with the bright young minds of IIM Amritsar. While I would have very much liked this to be a physical session, the connect is better that way, but well, so be it. Maybe that will be for a next time, right? Before I begin, I want you all to indulge me a little bit, maybe a couple of minutes more than my allotted time. I want to start by telling you a little bit more about my journey. I was born in the sleepy town of Bhilai, a steel township, which gave you the advantage of a cosmopolitan culture, but had the limitation of opportunities. And may I also add privacy. Not only did everybody knew everybody else, which was fine, but somehow they even knew what was happening in your life. If there's one word that I would equate Bhilai with, that is education. It is unbelievable the kind of importance that was given to education. No, I'm not complaining, but the catch was that if you are any good at studies, there were only 2 occupations that you could pursue. One was engineering and the other was medicine. There was no third respected career choice. Well, I'm the youngest in the family and somewhat a rebel. My elder siblings, both of them good at studies, one appeared for pre-medical test, one appeared for pre-engineering test, so kind of towed the lines. But I was good at studies too, but when it came to me, remember, I am a rebel, so I opted for commerce. Not because I was interested in commerce. It was a totally new animal. I had absolutely no idea of what I was getting into. But what I knew was that I did not want to do what was expected of me. So like they say, you have to leave a trail, you must walk the path untrodden. So that was just a beginning that has kind of stayed with me through my life. I chose to join a stock exchange way back, when I completed my post-graduation. And even today, some people believe it to be uninitiated people, believe it to be a gambling den. Back then, believe me, that these kind of perceptions were much stronger. Then I worked for a leading stock exchange for a very long and successful stint and chose to move to a much smaller niche agri-commodity exchange. The trigger here was, the opportunity that it provided to contribute and make a difference. So this has always been a part of, my story. The message that I want to pass on to you, the architects of tomorrow's India and perhaps tomorrow's world, is know that the strength lies in being different. Be different, be you, and leave a trail for others to follow. Coming to today's topic, rise like a phoenix. Well, as the story goes, phoenix is this mythical bird with a fiery plumage that lives up to 100 years, and near the end of its life, it goes down and settles into a nest of twigs, which then burns ferociously, reducing the bird and the nest to ashes. And from those ashes, a fledgling phoenix rises, renewed and reborn. To me, the story symbolizes that in every end, there is a beginning. There is an opportunity in every crisis. Something good could come out of it. Well, pandemic was not short of a crisis. In the stock exchange space, work from home is unheard of, perhaps because it would lead to inequities between the teams, as some of the teams have to necessarily function from office premises, such as market operations, surveillance, and risk teams. When it came to the lockdown being announced, we at NCDX had somewhat of a head start. We had kind of preempted the situation, and while the technology enablers were in place, the VPNs were established, the laptops, many laptops had been procured, not enough though. But what we were not ready for was the concept of work from home. This was the first time ever that we would be trying this out. However, the initial skepticism and doubt quickly gave way to finding new ways of getting work done. It is surprising how trusting and showing faith can move mountains. Like they say, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. 7 functional teams that report into me formed a focused cross-functional team to redesign the customer-facing processes. Remember, we were doing everything physically till then. All physical submissions had to be received online, validated remotely, processed, responded to, and stored in a safe place for retrieval if required. Between the off-the-shelf plug-and-play models, the FTP, file transfer protocols, self-designed tools, in about 3 weeks, I'm happy to tell you, in about 3 weeks, we were completely ready to work online. In the interim 3 weeks, we took turns to go to office, scan the physical documents that were received, and send it to the different teams so that they could process it. During this period, 2 of my team members became COVID positive. While the HR did help, the kind of support that they got from the rest of the team members was phenomenal. It was overwhelming to see how their work was completely taken care of by the rest. I did not even have to intervene. While this is probably common within each function, it becomes necessary, in fact. This time the support came from across teams. I may dare add that trust, empathy, and camaraderie has in fact led to an increased productivity of my teams during work from home. For those of us who believed in the necessity of continuous oversight and monitoring, there was a lot of unlearning and learning to do during this pandemic. Teams functioned with minimum oversight and flexible timings. In Bombay specifically, with smaller homes and those kind of additional challenges, some of my team members till date work early in the mornings, while others prefer to work late at nights. We learned of each other's challenges. Families interacted, hearts opened up. We faced uncertainties, being supportive of each other and of our circumstances. We were more agile than we ever thought, quickly adapting and innovating to new way of working. Ironically, in the midst of social distancing, we all actually became closer. So the learning here was that in tandem with focusing on digital skills, which is of course become a necessity, it is important that the corporate culture and leadership skills focus on empathy as transformation and disruptions become the new normal. For stock exchange space, where work from home was unheard of, like in many other sectors, the crisis has given the opportunity of discovering a new way of working, that of working remotely, and it is now here to stay. While the pandemic is a recent incident, I would also like to share about yet another transformational change which created ripples, the impact of which can be felt even today. Yes, you've guessed it, it is the stock exchange space. Let's go back 25 years. Okay, so if you are in the city of Amritsar and you wanted to buy 100 shares of, say, Reliance, it's customary to say Reliance in stock exchange. So if you were to buy 100 shares of Reliance 25 years back, what you would have to do is approach a stockbroker in Amritsar, who would then probably approach a stockbroker in Bombay, who would then send his jobber to the ring, who would then place the order for those 100 shares, get them, and then you follow the reverse cycle for the shares to come back to you. Let's look at this transaction from different aspects. Timelines. So the entire process would easily take 4 to 8 weeks, and that's an optimistic view. Let's look at the transparency. The only price points that would be available to you would be open, high, low, and close. And if you are buying, you would most likely to get a price near the high. And if you're selling, you're most likely to get a price near the low. There was no way of your confirming exactly what price the trade had taken place in that ring, right? Security, well, the safety and security of your transaction was at question, because when you did receive the shares, there was a fair chance that you could be saddled with fake and forged shares, what we used to call bad delivery back then. And if you had a grievance, well, God help you. With this as the background, know that BSE accounted for 70% of the total turnover across India, across about 20 odd regional exchanges that existed back then. With this background, NSE was born. Actually, it was the 1992 Radhika Mehta scam. It was from the ashes of that scam that NSE came into being. And the idea at that point in time was to modernize the Indian securities market. So let's see what changes NSE has brought in by its existence. Let's say fast forward the same transaction. Today, if you are to buy 100 shares, you could do it at the click of your button. You could confirm the trade price from the stock exchange website. You could, you would get the shares in your account in a dematerialized form on T+2 basis. So clearly, there's been a host of change that NSE has brought about, especially in the speed, transparency, and cost of transaction. NSE has modernized the entire security markets ecosystem, whether it was electronic trading, dematerialization, redefining every aspect, bringing in unprecedented transparency, speed, a diversified product basket, and a new set of professional traders. It actually truly lives up to its tagline when it says that the Indian economy passes through here. And this manifests in the growth that its turnover has seen from about 17 crores in 1994 to 2 lakh crores that it does today. That, my dear friends, surely is a phoenix. But let's pause here for a second. For a country of 138 odd crore people, we took around 25 years. 25 plus years, 1994 is the base that I'm taking because that is when NSE came into being, to reach a mark of about 5 crore demat accounts. We took 25 years. And again, the biggest spurt was during the pandemic. So be as it may, which brings me to the next point, have the securities market been able to penetrate India the way it ought to? Or could there be a more potent tool for financial inclusion in Indian economy? Let's see, we are primarily an agrarian economy. More than 60% of our population depends on agriculture for its livelihood. So naturally, agri sector is critical for India's financial inclusion as well as for the growth of Indian economy. Let me throw a few more stats here. We are the world's largest producer of pulses, wheat, rice, spice, and spice products. We are also the biggest consumers of most of these items, which means that we are ideally positioned on the world map to be the price setters for commodities in the world. Sadly, the reality is far away from this. Given that the key purpose of a stock exchange is price discovery, you can understand why agri-commodity exchange is critical component of any economy, and more so for India with its agrarian background. Let's examine the physical marketing model that exists in our country today. So it's, as you know, is a state subject, and the states are divided into geographies, and each of these geographies have their mandis or APMCs. APMCs are the Agriculture Produce Market Committees. Farmers sell their produce via auction at these mandis. Traders require a license to operate in these mandis. Now, let me tell you, the moment the farmer is moving out of his farm with the produce towards the mandi, his fate is sealed. Why do I say that? Well, the farmer is already debt-ridden, right? And the moment he has set off, if he decides not to sell, and he doesn't have that luxury because, he doesn't have the luxury of holding on to his produce to get a better price. If it doesn't sell it in the mandi on that day, he has to bring back the produce, which means it will add to his cost, add to his debt burden, which he can ill afford. And this fact is taken advantage of when he reaches the mandi. The mandi has multiple middlemen. It lacks in storage facility. There is wastage and spoilage. There are lack of grading facilities. What is grading? Well, agriculture in India is very fragmented, and the quality of the produce differs from one farm to another farm, which means that even in the same commodity, we produce multiple varieties, and the price that your commodity commands will depend upon your quality of the products, depend upon the variety. So that therefore it is important that you grade your goods when it comes to the mandi. Now this grading facilities are pathetic. In fact, sometimes you will find the middlemen, taking this wheat in their hand and saying, "Ha, ye to ye wali quality hai." That's not how you do grading. Yeah, there is unauthorized deduction that these people do. There is inadequate information about market prices. Let me take a case study so that you all understand this better. So Maharashtra has about 307 APMCs, about 200 odd are operational. Let's take the case of Vashi, and let's take the case of one commodity, say potato because something that we are all familiar with, whatever part of India we come from. So these potatoes are sold at the Vashi Mandi by the farmers to the wholesalers at the rate at the range of 5 to 7 rupees per kg. These wholesalers sell it to the retailers at the price of rupees 13 to 15 rupees per kg. Yesterday, I bought potatoes and I paid rupees 25 per kg. So imagine what the farmer is getting rupees 5 for. I'm paying rupees 25, which means 5 times the price, 400%. That's the kind of cut that these middlemen have. You may argue that there is freight involved, etc., but even with that, how much more do you think the gap would be filled? Clearly, there is a place for improvement here. There is evidence to demonstrate that the buyers in APMCs behave in cartels, harvest after harvest, crop after crop, season after season. Layers and layers of intermediaries and middlemen have been telling the farmers what price their produce should fetch. Amidst this buyer domination, the stock exchange provides fair, efficient, and transparent mechanism for discovery of market price. The exchange price serves as a reference point for dealing even in the physical mandis. Let me give you an example. Guar gum trades on the exchange platform. So if the farmers were selling guar gum in the physical mandi, they know what is the variety that is sold on exchange platforms. So if their variety is better, they usually say NCDX price plus premium or NCDX price plus minus discount in case the quality is a bit inferior to the NCDX grading. The future prices offer signals for policy action on procurement, import, tariffs, etc. They even help the farmer in taking decision about what crop he should sow. Usually farmers plant on the basis of the prices that prevailed in the previous season, not on what it is likely to obtain in the next. Therefore, this decision very often brings them to grief. The other main function of the commodity exchange is that of price risk management. It provides a platform for hedging, for locking of prices. For example, it helps someone like a maize farmer to lock his price for the crops months before they are actually harvested, which means that he knows what is the price that he will fetch at the time of harvest. What this does is it increases his actual survival in the farming operations. Clearly, commodity exchanges have the potential to be the engine of India's economic growth. One would then expect a supportive regulatory regime, even an encouraging regulatory regime, to enable tapping of the deep potential that the agri-commodity system has in India. Well, friends, the reality is exactly the opposite. In last 5 months, SEBI has banned 7 commodities from trading on the agri-commodity exchange. Banning futures deprives the market participant, most importantly, the farmers in the spot market, of crucial source of price information. In fact, I must tell you that world over, commodity exchange space is a much bigger one than compared to the equity space. And in India, given all the right conditions, it is astonishing and even saddening that the agri-commodities exchanges are struggling with government interventions. Evidently, for these markets, the proverbial nest of twigs is still burning to ashes. But people like me believe that it is only a matter of time that from these ashes, the phoenix will rise. The phoenix will rise, and how? Like they say, we must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That was a very enlightening address. I'm sure the students present today here have gained a lot of knowledge. And now I would like to open the floor for questions. So the first question would be by Mr. Vishesh Mehra.
Good evening, ma'am. Thank you for the insightful interaction. So I would like to know, how do you like you have answered it briefly. How do you see the growth prospects of commodity trading in India, and what measures is NCDX taking to participate in this growth story?
So, like I said, if I restrict to the agri commodities, if I restrict the scope of your question to agri commodities, clearly India is in such a position of advantage as compared to the world that it's incredible that we're not making use of something that's right there in front of our eyes, right? So we are second largest arable land in the world. So everything is going for us, but we're not making, we are not building on the potential that we have. If we have the right policy support, if I have to give you the example of what China did, China is a much smaller market as compared to, and has absolutely no advantages that India has. But what China did a couple of years back, and which kind of put it on the world map of commodity exchanges, I'm not too sure if you're aware of the procurement that the government does for the PDS system, etc. All that procurement, Chinese government started doing on the exchange platform. That helped two ways. One, there was transparency in the deals that the government was doing, because anything that is done on the exchange platform is, it's known, right? It's the price points will be known. Second, it actually gave a stir up to the commodity exchanges in China, which once you have one side of demand flowing in, the other side actually built up. And today the commodity exchanges clearly have a huge point in a huge marking point in the Chinese economy. So if the government, the government policies came in an era when India was facing scarcity of food. Today we have surpluses, yet we are clinging on to the age-old policies, mostly for political reasons than logical reasons. So if that was to be changed, I think, there's no stopping Indian agri-commodity market. It could be much bigger space than I told you that, equity exchanges are locking in 2 lakh crores in a day. I could say that it could be a multiple of that if we were to actually tap the potential that Indian economy has in agri space.
Thank you, ma'am.
So the next question would be by Mr. Himakaran Kadali.
Hello, good evening, ma'am. So my question is, are the newer technologies like machine learning and blockchain being leveraged in exchange activities today?
So machine learning, yes, we do kind of adopt that for surveillance, because the kind of transactions that you witness on the exchange platform, you will need to, you can't manually do the surveillance if you have to do it online real time. So we have these OLTP and tools which we use for doing surveillance, which use a lot of machine learning concepts. Blockchain is a concept that, in the core exchange space has not yet been tried. While we have tried it in the peripherals, we have not tried it in the core exchange space. And that is mostly because, these kind of things will need regulatory approvals, because even during pandemic, you could see that, the stock exchanges need to function without any stoppage, right? So any drastic change in technology will require that, you build a parallel and test the parallel while you are already working on this. So blockchain is something that we are trying on the peripherals, but not really in the core exchange functioning as of now. But I personally believe that it's a matter of time, because I don't think you can hide away from these new technology concepts in whichever sphere you are.
Thank you, ma'am.
So the next question would be by Mr. Amar Kumar.
First of all, thank you, ma'am, for this insightful discussion. Ma'am, going along the line that we're talking about this sector, the growth potential it has and how it can help the farmers and all. what could be the possible reasons that government is going in the other direction? Instead of supporting this sector, they are going in the other direction.
Now, these are my personal views, and I wouldn't want my personal views to be taken as the views of the organization I work for. But your guess is as good as mine. Logical, and we've been doing a lot of meeting up, education of the utility of the economic utility of the exchange platform in all sectors, including influencers, policymakers, because these are the kind of people who will make a difference in or put pressures on the government corridors. The recent example that I would like to give you is the farm laws. And I don't know if you were following what happened in the farm laws. They were announced, and I personally believe that that was a huge positive step. It would actually give a lot of freedom to the farmers, because this mandi-based system does not really allow him to get the best price for his commodities because of the cartels that operate. So it would actually give him the freedom to kind of sell to anyone he wanted if these farm laws would have come. However, people, it is surprising, again, my personal views, that the farmers of the state which would have benefited most from it were in the forefront of the agitation against these farm laws. So I would have believed the Punjab farmers would have probably helped the most. And then the government was quick enough to retrace its steps, right? So, and now the government is doing nothing when the product commodities have been banned, which means clearly that they did not believe in the farm laws, because this is a retrograde step. We are clearly way past the 21st century, and yet we are taking steps back. I don't know if you are aware that there are 94 commodities in the list which are allowed to have derivative contracts on them, of which only 31 commodities today have derivative contracts for various reasons. And yet of that also they're banning contracts. So this banning of contracts can literally kill many of the market participants. It's been a real tough time for all of us in the agri-commodity space.
Thank you, ma'am.
The next question would be by Mr. Sangam Patel.
So, good evening, ma'am. So, as a chief compliance officer of such a large firm, you must be dealing with a different set of stakeholders, right? And different compliance related to different rule, regulation and policies, which are all is a quite sophisticated thing, I think. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you see as working as a chief compliance officer? I mean, challenges related to some small sectors like MSMEs, and which listed on the stock exchange.
Yeah, so I'm again, commodity exchanges used to be under FMC till about a couple of 5 years back. 2015 is when SEBI actually took over the regulation of the commodity exchanges. And what happened after that is, there was, so clearly, equity markets are more evolved and have better regulations, etc., etc. So there was this what you guys call Control C, Control V kind of methodology done. All the regulations of the equity exchanges were kind of made applicable to the commodity exchanges, which in theory sounds all good. But the point that you made, look at the kind of participants that there are there in the commodity exchanges. We have many first generation brokers, and they're not even brokers. We have these brokers in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. Some of the cities bhi nahi bol sakte, some of them are actually towns. So the products that are available on the exchange are primarily produced in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, and from these areas, really rural areas, we have people who have taken the membership of the exchange. Clearly, they are the farmers or farmer-oriented people, right? So for them to kind of deal with these kind of regulations became a huge challenge. I'll give you an example. We had 700 members in 2015, 15. And after SEBI came over, in by 2016, we had around 300 odd members. So clearly those people felt that they will not be able to deal with the kind of regulatory pressures that they are being imposed upon. Was this right? I think you will need to, at some point in time, appreciate the kind of participation that you get on the commodity exchange and have customizable kind of regulations to the market. What equity markets had in, say, about 95, 96, 97 is what you need in commodity markets today, because the equity markets are, like I said, much evolved, and therefore the kind of regulations that they have is much easier. So the challenge that we face is to kind of help these people with the with compliance of these regulations. If we have a time, I would like to share one example. Rajat, do I have a time to kind of give one real life example here?
Sure, ma'am.
Okay, so we have a concept wherein the members are required to use the money that let's take a member ABC. All of us are the clients under that member, so all of us will need to give him some money, etc., right, for the margins, etc. So we have all paid the money, but what happens is sometimes the member uses the money that I have given for, probably the positions that you are taking, which means you are using one client's money for the other client, or sometimes you use the client's money for proprietary trading. Both of this is not allowed. It's from a risk perspective, it is not allowed. So we had this from a very small town in Rajasthan, almost near the Pakistan border. We had this one member where SEBI went for inspection, and SEBI pointed out कि भाई आपके records में पैसा दिख रहा है कि भाई आपने ऐसा किया है. So this member, says ठीक है मैं आप मेरे घर रात को ना, and in all these small towns, if you go, सीधा वो घर पे ही खाने पे बुलाते हैं आपको. So he will call you for, he said आप शाम को खाने पे घर पे आइएगा, मैं इन लोगों को, ये 3 जन जिनको आपने बोला है उनको भी बुलाता हूँ. And then he calls these people, everybody for dinner, including the SEBI official, and he's telling them, अच्छा Mr. A, आपका पैसा मैंने मिस्टर बी को दिया, आपको पता था? हाँ पता था. आपको तकलीफ है? नहीं, मेरे को तो तकलीफ नहीं है, क्योंकि मेरे को जब भी तकलीफ होती है तो मिस्टर बी भी मेरे को पैसे देते हैं. मिस्टर बी, आपके पैसे मैंने यूज किया, आपको पता था? हाँ मुझे पता था. आपको तकलीफ है? नहीं है. आप तो हमेशा मेरी मदद के लिए आते हैं. तो ही इज देन टेलिंग द सेबी गाय, जब उन ए को तकलीफ नहीं है, बी को तकलीफ नहीं है, मेरे को तकलीफ नहीं है, तो आपको किस बात की तकलीफ है? सो टू टेल देम दैट this is not allowed is very difficult. So they still have these ideologies and these family type relationships that they have within the townships, that it's very difficult to kind of tell them that you will be imposed a penalty because of this. And the SEBI official was so sensitive of this that he actually called us up and said, madam aap na inke liye facilitation programs karo, inko मतलब क्या पेनल्टी लगाएं आप, क्या ही पेनल्टी लगाएं टाइप्स. सो वी एक्चुअली डू अ लॉट ऑफ compliance facilitation programs across the length and breadth of the country because you penalize people when they do it willfully, right? But if it is an inadvertent error, you need to handhold. But the problem is, once an error is done, it's beyond me to kind of not impose a penalty, right? So therefore, we do a lot of compliance facilitation to ensure that these kind of things do not happen. And we need a totally different set of mental makeup to kind of reach out to them and kind of teach them the logics. And it's very difficult to argue with the logic that he gave,
Thanks a lot, ma'am.
That answers your question.
Yeah, quite elaborative answer.
Ma'am, due to paucity of time, we will not be able to take any more questions.
No problem.
I would like to give a vote of thanks now.
Yeah.
I would like to propose a hearty vote of thanks to our noteworthy speaker, Ms. Seema Nair, for gracing this occasion with her presence and sharing her valuable notes on the topic. We believe that this will go about as an establishment stone for future collaborations. Thank you for enlightening us with your valuable knowledge and experience. I'm sure the students will benefit from this discussion and will reflect upon this. I would also like to propose a hearty vote of thanks to our all respectable speakers for gracing this event with their presence and making the inaugural Leadership Summit a resounding success. We would like to thank our Honorable Professor Amit Gupta for his inspirational thoughts. We would also like to extend a heartfelt thanks to Professor Santosh Tiwari and Professor Chetan Chitre for guiding the industry interaction cell. Furthermore, I want to extend a gratitude towards the IT team for the smooth functioning of today's event. This event would not have been a resounding success without the seamless efforts of the media and public relations cell of IIM Amritsar. Last but not least, I thank the students of MBA 06, MBA 07, MBA HR 01, MBA BA 01, EMBA 01, PhD 01, PhD 02, and our alumni for their constant support, patience, and engagement. Without you all, this event would not be possible. Once again, thank you all.
Thank you so much, guys. I just want to add one more thing. May your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears. Thank you very much for having me. I hope we'll continue our collaboration. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am.